Subjectivity of art, the familiarity of solitude. Let's talk about solitude in art. The question of perception or depiction. Is it a matter of familiarity of oneself or familiarizing with oneself? Does solitude not exist outside of being alone? Where is the beauty in solitude? Hi all, my name is Em, and I want to welcome you to Sleep Philosophy. Tonight, rest easy as we delve into a piece I personally find enchanting. The beauty of the piece that lies in its stillness and depth, entrancing us. Listen as we embark on a journey into the piece itself and try to bring it to life momentarily. Picture a room. It has walls and a roof as others, and it is dark. The only source of light is through the soft beams emitting through a single window. You can feel the silence and sense you yourself are the only one to exist in that moment. Does the silence frighten us? Or is it the stillness of us standing alone in a barely lit room where all that we see is the bare and empty? How would we fill that room? Would that free us of our silence? But then, why do we feel the need to fill the silence? Does the solitude need to be chased away? Or can we coexist? Now picture that same room, the dimly lit room, a window emitting a soft glow of light, and fill it with a woman in a white cotton dress, sitting atop a chair. She holds a sketch pad on her lap, and the only vivid colour is from the shawl or blanket she tossed along the chair. She's looking at us, and we begin to think, have we caught her off guard in her solace, interrupting her work as she stares at us with questioning gaze? Or are we the focus instead? Is she waiting for us to speak? Is she sketching us? Where do we fit in this scene? What is our role? Ultimately, I wonder as I look at this piece, are we the audience or are we the artist? In the further distance, beyond the broken glass of the window, we see people standing alongside a handrail, perhaps looking over a bay or river, and we begin to compare and wonder. There they stand, enveloped in their own conversation in their lives. And here she is, sitting alone in a dark room, with no one but us to accompany her in her silence. Now, we can dissect this piece much more than I could have done, perhaps more so into every minuscule detail that has or may not have been brought up as of yet. However, the artwork as a whole acts unique in its own depiction of the stillness within life. There is nothing flashy or bright or even vividly eye-catching about this piece. It is simply a woman watching us as we look at her back, and though life proceeds to continue around us, we are here alone in this moment, together, into peace. It is the 17th century in France, and the artwork is called Charlotte du Val d'Ognes. The work has had a few alleged authors, one predominantly assumed to have been Jacques-Louis David, but is ultimately work drawn Marie Denise Viller, née Lemoine. It was displayed in Metropolitan Museum of Art's collection in 1917, under David's name before the error was rectified in 1951. There isn't much known about Marie's life. She had siblings who were also painters, Marie Elisabeth Gabieu and Marie Victoire Lemoine, and began studying under Anne-Louis Giraudet de Roussy-Triosson, François Gérard, and Jacques Louis David, before she exhibited in the Salon in 1799. Marie's life, beyond the minor details from her career, are somewhat uncertain, so it's hard to know what her motives might have been when drawing pieces such as this portrait. We can extrapolate what little information we know about the context of this painting. The fact that it exists as part of the collection of artwork created by female artists during the revolutionary era could say a couple different things. There is the obvious connection of the increase is female painters during this era, discussions on autonomy regarding artistic expression, and the discourse on false ownership over peace made by women in the context of the patriarchy. We can take the French Revolution as a focal point in discussion too, considering the controversial subject of the violence in the revolution hasn't yet touched this piece, but perhaps aspect of the work can be linked to the political and social turmoil at the time. Art, after all, is often subjective, whether if it was ever initially meant to be or not. People see what they want to see, and artistic content could only go so far in the face of individual perspective. Subjectivity of art, the familiarity of solitude. Beyond intent is perception in what we see and feel as a collective. Though it may differ, there is often a similar emotion or overarching understanding that can be felt in perceiving pieces such as this. This brings me to the topic of art that displays solitude. Solitude can be introduced in a multitude of ways, often linked with the idea of loneliness. Solitude also can be seen as to enjoy one's company in a moment of silent introspection, often conveyed through an almost muted scene of projected normalcy or interpreted familiarity. What I mean by this is that solitude in art is not an exaggerated display of artistry. No one's pushing forward bright colours and wide ranges of motion to convey an emotion. And that is not to say that those elements make art any less important or of a certain calibre. Solitude in art has, I find, a different impact on the observers, the audience. Solitude doesn't need to be any one specific depiction. Any place or circumstance can represent a moment in solitude, finding peace in silence and in the loneliness in not a unique emotion, lead through the ink nonetheless. Art that doesn't require the depiction of an epic battle or an overwhelming emotion, yet elicit an inexplicable emotion from the viewers nonetheless. Charlotte du Val d'Ognes, I deem, is definitely such a piece. There isn't anything magnificent taking place within the scene. The woman is wearing a plain outfit, her hair are pinned up, but otherwise also rather plain. She lacks ostentatious presentation. Even the room itself is entirely unassuming. I see this work, and I imagine myself joining in her solitude and stillness. And that is an all-encompassing theme of pieces that depict solitude. There is an almost inviting air to them. The subject is, of course, alone in their ponder. But we, as the audience, tend to have this unstable ledging of where we fall in this scene. Are we the spectator, or are we a part of the scenario? Are we simply outsiders taking the role of an observer? Or do we have a place in the subject's solitude? As we look at her as the subject, it's as if we've caught her outside of the public, where people tend to posture and create barriers in the form of pleasantries and comportment. This is a private space, and here she is, hunched over her creation in deep concentration. Her eyes as well hold a quality to them. She's staring directly at us, and we look back, and we're frozen in a moment of serenity or peace. But when you look at this piece, you don't feel as if we've been caught entrenching on her personal solace. There's no accusatory stare or hostile expression. There's nothing loud about the work. Everything is softly done. Even the broken edges of the glass are blurred in the glow of the sun. She seems patient, relaxed, and almost expectant in the way she is still immersed in her artwork, but giving us her attention on some level. To all who listen to the end, I wish you a good night, and we will reconvene for next time.